Hello, dear participants, dear speakers, and dear interpreter as well, and welcome to this third Campfire session of the ROC Open Knowledge Week. I am Cécile Houpert, and I am project coordinator at Eurocities, which is the network of major European cities, and also a partner in the ROC project. And I will be your moderator for this half-an-hour session. Yesterday, we had the pleasure to hear stories from ROC role model cities Athens, Cluj, Eindhoven, and Vilnius. And today I am joined by two other ROC role model cities, the cities of Torino and Lyon in France. We will discuss the exchange and mentoring process that happened between cities during the ROC project. So please welcome Erika Albarello, European Project Manager in the city of Torino, and Céline Lyoën, ROC Project Coordinator in the city of Lyon, together today with Pierre-Anne Gosset from the Cultural Affairs Department of the city of Lyon. Hello, ladies. Before we start, just a few reminders for our participants in the session. So you can use the chat for questions. We will monitor them. And I also gathered some of the questions asked by participants during the city talks earlier, and I will submit them to our speaker in a moment. You can also change your viewing mode to manage how you want to see us and the interpreter in the button on the bottom right of your screen. Before we start with our panelists, and apologies if you were with us yesterday and heard this before, but I would like to remind you about the importance that mentoring and exchanges between cities took during the ROC project. Eurocities, together with other key partners, were responsible for the organization of different types of exchange activities with cities taking part in the project. These activities had a lot of different names, so we organized mentoring visits, work shadowing visits, study visits, webinars, exchange workshop, etc. But behind all these names, what is important to remember is the core idea of the mentoring process put in place as part of ROC. So the idea that replicator cities would benefit from experiences of role model cities to adapt successful practices to their local contexts, as well as to formulate responses to problems they were facing. But this format evolved as the ROC project advanced, and cities became keener on these exchanges because they realized that they had all something to share and something to learn from their peers. It was not just a one direction thing. So indeed, cooperation and contact with other municipalities have been crucial aspects of the ROC project and have allowed exchanges of experiences between cities on various aspects of the project. During the different meetings and visits, cities showed mutual help, support, and solidarity to each other and learned together about their best practices, but also about the mistakes to avoid and the good tips to remember. So we put together these campfire sessions with role model cities because we wanted to hear firsthand from the cities how they experienced this process of exchange. And from our discussion with role model cities from yesterday, I would already remember two things. The first one is that for successful exchanges and transferability of practices to happen between cities, one must be flexible and adapt also to local contexts and local cultures. So this is how our ROC cities connected to each other, but not only to each other, because they also reached out to other cities in Europe, and Eurocities as a network made sure that the lessons learned by the ROC cities were also useful for the rest of our membership, which is about 150 cities in Europe. The second thing to remember from yesterday is that even if ROC is coming to an end, the lessons and experiences from the project will be carried on in other projects simply by nurturing the network and the connections that were created between cities. So in the end, this is also about personal contacts and personal relation and about sharing good moments together. And we had a lot of good moments and good laugh during the ROC project. So yes, there was a lot of good stories from the ROC project thanks to the cities. And yesterday we heard some of them. But today we focus on Torino and Lyon, and we will bring some more stories to you. So let's start. My first question is for Erika. Erika has been cooperating with the city of Torino as European project manager since 2009 and was the host of the very first mentoring visit ever organized as part of ROC. So I remember it was in November 2017 and the project had just started. I remember we visited some great places, including Officine Grandi Riparazioni, which just opened at the time, with a symbol as well of the region industrial past converted into a cultural center dedicated to innovation and creativity. It was also the first time that the cities were meeting each other since the kickoff meeting, so things were really getting concrete. So Erika, what was it like to host a visit from the ROC project at the very beginning of the project? And why was it important for you to have a delegation of cities discovering your city?
Well, first of all, hello to everybody and nice to see you. Actually, it was a kind of pressure for the city of Torino to be the first one to have a visit from the ROC partners. And of course, as for every visit that we hosted until then, we want to show you everything. So we, as you can remember, we prepared a quite packed program from the Sunday afternoon. I can remember we visited some of the fairs during the weekend of contemporary arts. Then we had a meeting, several meetings with the deputy mayor in charge of culture, many city officers working on urban culture. We visited, you mentioned Officine Grandi Riparazioni. We also visited the Case del Quartiere, neighborhood houses. And we had also insights from other projects like Co-City from Urban Innovative Actions. What I can say is that maybe we made a mistake in preparing such a packed program. From the partners, we had some feedback that probably at that time it would have been useful also to have more time to talk together, more B2Bs. More, let's say, informal time. In that occasion, we really showed you many things, and you had time maybe to think of it when you were back home, and of course during the rest of the ROC project. But yes, if I had to organize it again now, probably I would show you less things and maybe share one more beer to exchange and to share ideas about the days together. And something else that I would also like to share is that, as you mentioned, Cécile, we were the first role model city to also visit, but actually we have to acknowledge that we have much more to learn from the replicator cities, from Bologna, Skopje and Lisbon. Some of their experiences that they also presented in Torino were inspirational for us. So I totally agree that it was a double, let's say, a double path or an exchange rather than a learning from one side and teaching, let's say, from the other. Yeah.
No, it was rather than, it was not really teaching in all the project anyway. It was really more about exchanges. And I think all the cities were very honest as well in presenting their good practices, but also the things that were not so well, or where they had lots of questions, or they needed help from the other cities, be them replicator cities or role model city. In the end, it did not really matter. Well, thank you, Erika, and I have really fond memories of the city of Torino personally. Okay, and there was also, maybe we can take it now. There was a remark for you in the city talk from Antonella, I think, who was asking if it would be important for the future to improve the capacity of different actors involved to give feedbacks on data. So as you said, with the experimentation in Torino, with the data monitoring and the different sensors that were placed. Yes. Do you have any comments on this?
Well, yes, I have a couple of comments. Well, specifically on collecting data in the city, let's say real-time data, our local police is very much committed in testing different sensors, different type of technologies, and gathering this type of data and confronting them so that further analysis can be developed more than just let's say the data you can gather with one specific sensor or the other. Let's say interconnection between these technologies is very much important. On the other side, and this is also an occasion to present this initiative to you, our third party, the Urban Lab in Torino, just opened a new public exhibition. Yes, in this time, let's say public is not so much accessible, so it is also an online tool that gathers all the available data in the city, gathered from different institutions, different type of data regarding from demography to economic situation to cultural heritage and so on and so forth. So the idea behind this process is that really providing data, information, reliable stories or facts about the city is a way to help people really be more involved in the policy making, because they are able really to understand what is happening. And as it was mentioned before, accessing data, understanding data is not very easy for everybody. So you also need somebody, in our case, for example, Urban Lab, that translates this data in accessible information for people.
Yes, and this is also maybe a nice link to my next question, which would be directed to Céline in Lyon. But there was also a comment, if you can share the link to the exhibition, maybe it would be interesting for a lot of participants here.
Yeah, I will share the link to the website of Urban Lab, and the exhibition will be uploaded in the next days. So let's keep an eye on
So we can stay tuned, everybody.
Yeah.
So the links to this, what Erika just said, brings me to a question, to my question to Céline in Lyon, and to also something that came up yesterday during the Campfire session with the other role model. It was the question of partnerships at local level that were created thanks to the ROC project. So cities were saying that the local partnerships created within ROC, for instance, with local universities, or in the case of Torino with the Urban Lab, Torino, these partnerships created also connections with new people and different ways of working that were kind of new also for the city officers responsible for ROC. So I wanted to know, Céline, is this something that resonates with you too? And what kind of changes did you perceive at local level in Lyon? Did this European project spark the new way of working between colleagues in the municipality or between departments beyond the cultural affairs and heritage departments?
Yes, actually, the most obvious thing that it has brought is the fact that the project gave us basically time and space to bring together and around the same table people that usually are not working together. So not only, as you said, different partners from different institutions, but also different services from the municipality. And it has allowed us to work in a more transversal way, and also to really take the time to think out of the box and to look at the subject in a different way. In particular, it has allowed us to catch subjects on the fly, subjects that were with, as we say, weak signals. So at this time, for example, I think none of us could say that we would have spent so much time and effort within the project on the permanent lighting issue. And we will present the work that we have been doing tomorrow. But on this specific subject, it was very interesting to see that at the beginning, the question of the light cacophony, so the dialogue between public and private lighting, and the fact that it's not always coherent in the nightscape. So this question was not so much identified, I would say, by the different practitioners. And we had the time to address this, to think about it, to study this phenomena, and to identify it now as a very important subject for the municipality. And we are now finalizing the booklet of recommendations also to help the practitioners and to provide them with a tool. And it's very interesting to see that the practitioners now identify the fact that they needed this tool, but they couldn't even say it. I would say they did not identify this need before, but now they are saying that it's very useful for them. So that's one interesting aspect, I would say. And for example, it has also changed the way to consider the subject itself. One of the cultural heritage architects we are working with was telling me a few weeks ago that before all the work we have been doing on permanent lighting, he was not so much integrating this subject in the way he was processing all the projects submitted. And now it's something that he's really integrating in his reflections on the way we are, let's say, developing the city. So it's one concrete, I would say, achievement of the project.
Yes, indeed. And I think this is one of the power and also value of European funded project. It's not that it's just about European money or European partners, but it's also that it creates partnerships and connections at local level. And as you said, either between people that are suddenly working together and viewing their different topics in a different way, or also between topics themselves, or as you said, it enriches also the definition at city level of what is heritage in this case, in the case of rock. So thanks a lot for that. Yeah.
If I can add something,
sure.
I also would like to say that at the beginning, you know, when we started working in the project, it's always a bit, I would say, artificial. That we were working on rock as something a bit aside, and now we have totally integrated the methodology of rock and this transversal approach in our way of working. And the fact is that we actually entered the project at a moment where the Cultural Heritage Service was reshaped and renamed Management and Development of Cultural Heritages, with an S, with the ambition of becoming not only a management service, but also a project-oriented service. And the ROC project really has allowed us to anchor this approach in a very pragmatic way. So again, the work we have been doing with permanent lighting was a good example of this, of the impact of the methodology and the project-oriented approach that has really infused the whole way of working in the service.
It was also a good timing in the end.
Yes.
Well, thanks a lot. There was also a question for you in the City Talk before about the participation of citizens and professionals in the Urban Observatory dialogue that you put in place. And I don't remember who asked the question, but anyway, the question was if these citizens and professionals were provided a form of compensation to participate in the different dialogues, or was it a voluntary thing?
No, it was on a voluntary basis that we invited them to join this process. It's true that we have identified some people that we, through the we call it Conseil de Quartier, like city council, neighborhood councils. So that they are people that are interested in the city, So if it may be a bit a biais in the analysis that is provided, that indeed the people around the table are people interested in urban things and urban development. So, but it was on a voluntary basis.
But also the ones motivated as well to
exactly
take action. So in a way, maybe better. Okay, I don't see any questions in the chat from participants. Don't worry, I have more questions as well. But don't hesitate, participants, if you have a specific question for Torino or for Lyon, to ask it now. Otherwise, I will continue with my flow. Yesterday there was also very interesting questions that were asked in the Campfire, and I noted down some of them to bring them to you today. And one of them was about the challenges in terms of replicability of your model. Do you have any comments of this? What were the main challenges in the exchange between the cities? If you want to, you can raise your hand if you want to respond. Yeah, Céline.
Again, with regard to the work that we have been doing with permanent lighting, maybe one of the main challenges that we were ourselves at the very beginning of the reflection. We could feel that this subject was very new, even for us, and the project helped us a lot to I would say, put some words on concept and on not problem, but on facts that we had identified. So it was sometimes a bit difficult to take on board cities that we were sure they would face the same problem, but maybe not yet aware of them.
And less advanced in the reflection.
Maybe not less advanced, but not aware, since we were just aware for really a few months. And the workshop we had with Rock Cities and also Lucy, within Lucy network, with also some cities from around the world, let's say, was very interesting in this perspective, I would say, because it I think it really helped a lot all the cities around the table to be aware, to be more aware of this this question of private and public lighting dialogue.
So also a result of the project was this awareness raising about a specific aspect of a topic. And Erika, you had something also to add?
Well, actually, regarding the replicability, I agree with something that Miruna said in her introduction earlier, that is, even if our cities in some way share some similarities, our local contexts are very different. For example, in Torino, we had the opportunity to make some very large regeneration programs, also thanks to the presence of some specific local stakeholders. I was mentioning bank foundations in my presentation, or some private actors that might not be present in other cities. Or, for example, in Torino, there is a constant let's say, story of involvement of citizens through the neighborhood houses or other places that maybe are not present in other cities. So really, some parts of the replicability are really site-specific and are difficult to transpose to other locations.
But I think it's always the case in a lot of these replicability exercises, is that you have to kind of take into account these specific local aspects as well, and kind of help cities realize their own and how certain aspects or certain parts of the model can be replicated, but not transfer A to B, like in a total way.
Exactly.
There is a question in the chat from you, Céline. With the booklet will also be available for other cities. I guess Mariano is mentioning the booklet of recommendation on light, and Eindhoven also is working a lot on lighting.
It will not be available as such now. We are still working on it. Actually, we are finalizing it. We are realizing, I was explaining earlier, that this tool is very interesting also for the practitioners. So the version as we have it now is very complete, very rich, but it's not yet something that we can send out to citizens and to others, because it's not yet, I would say, digested. It needs to be a bit more worked out. So we still need to work also on the way we will distribute it. This has still not been defined. But what I can say is that maybe we could share, for example, within the project, how do you say, the summary, and not the summary, the plan, summary,
the content or the summary.
The summary. Maybe one example of one case study that we are studying.
Yes, that would be already good and useful, probably. Yes. But then when the booklet is available, I'm sure we will find ways to make it available for, or that it reaches.
Of course, once it will be distributed to practitioners and citizens in Lyon, of course, we will. You will find it, of course. Yes.
And maybe this can also be a link to another question. Oh, actually, now I'm looking at the time, and I think we are running out of time. But I had more questions for you, ladies. Anyway, thank you very much for your time and for your honesty in answering the question, and for sharing with us some of your memories from the project and what you gained from it, also for your cities at local level. And thanks to all our participants for your interest in our stories today again. This was the last Campfire session of the online conference, but the ROC Open Knowledge Week is not over, and many interesting sessions awaits you today and tomorrow also. But just now, I'm going to pass the floor to Martina Massari and Rossella Roversi from the University of Bologna, who are going to explain something a bit mysterious, but very important to the ROC project. And this is the research action research process and the integrated management plans. But before that, I think there would be a short video. So please, participants, stay on and stay with us. And I think that's it from me, at least, and from our speakers in Turin and Lyon. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye. Have a good rest of the day.
Goodbye.
Bye.
ROC stands for Regeneration and Optimization of Cultural Heritage in Creative and Knowledge Cities. This European-funded project focuses on historic city centres as extraordinary laboratories to demonstrate how cultural heritage can be a powerful engine of regeneration, sustainable development and economic growth for the whole city. ROC believes that cultural heritage should not be static, a vestige of the past only to be preserved, but can be a driving force to bring a new creative energy to cities. Using the past can help build urban futures. The project relies on a circular model as an integrated vision of urban regeneration. This circular model is based on 6 connected pillars: creative, cultural, regeneration, knowledge, security and green circles that interconnect to draw the future of cities. The cultural model is a continuous effort to recognise the city and its transformations as a heritage and common good, in which all the actors that interact with urban transformations are involved with varying degrees of responsibility and awareness. A common cultural past unites communities and empowers people to imagine a shared future. A concrete goal emerges from ROC's central concept: the co-design of actions to create the city's future in a collaborative way. Local actors, associations, students, businesses get together to share visions, knowledge and skills. 2 key concepts of the project are Creative City and City of Knowledge. Creativity and knowledge combined with technological innovation are triggers that fuel the economic and social growth of the city, transforming it sustainably. Environmental sustainability is a golden thread throughout the ROC project, as urban regeneration efforts go hand in hand with our attempts to minimise our impact on the environment and contribute to the resilience of communities to climate change. The ROC model is based on the ambitious development of a shared multicultural, multi-heritage and multi-stakeholders city vision, which integrates heritage-led regeneration, sustainable economic development, city promotion and knowledge sharing. Follow us.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this short session of the ROC Open Knowledge Week. My name is Martina Massari, and I'm here with my colleague Rossella Roversi. We're both research fellows within the University of Bologna in the architecture department. But we are among the large list of researchers from the University of Bologna and other universities who had the luck to work on this project and learn, study, overcome challenges, and finally grow. So before we start, I must say that unfortunately, there will be no time for questions in this session today, but please write all your questions in the chat. And you can also reach us in the dedicated chat in the exhibition space. So let's start this presentation that will show you how we moved from the ROC methodology of research action research to the definition of an integrated management plan. And we will then show you how a pilot plan was drafted for the city of Bologna. As we discovered throughout this conference in ROC, cultural heritage is meant as a unique and powerful engine of regeneration and sustainable development, but also of economic growth, starting from local assets and resources. So ROC cities, in fact, present a vast array of contextual values, experiences, legacies that were taken as a reference to start from to define the on-site intervention to be implemented locally. As you could see in the presentation video that was shown before, but also during the previous days, this approach is based on a circular urban system model for what we define the laboratory cities. So this model implies the connection of initially separated urban systems, as you see, related to cultural, knowledge, green regeneration, etc. And how we connected those systems. We did so through soft and technological enabling solutions, which entails, on the one hand, technical, organizational, and administrative solutions. On the other, they also included informal and spontaneous inputs. As it was mentioned during the role model session by our colleague Miruna, the circularity is strongly based on a continuous feedback loop that shape what we call a research action research methodology. And what is that? We meant it as a continuous and dynamic investigation movement in which speculation and practice, knowledge and action can never be separated. So in our vision, this gave life to a new way of making policies for local development for the city, as we saw in the many examples that were shown in by the cities during these days. The process started with the research part, so a planning moment where the action were co-defined and designed together with local stakeholders. They were, of course, identified from the role model cities, and they were also technically assessed by local authorities. The whole range of action fit into 3 thematic scenarios that you see written here: accessibility, sustainability, and new collaboration. Then action were implemented in the cities, and they span from co-design experiences, events and performances with cultural, formal and informal operators, temporary installation, small-scale experimentation, until also prototypes of urban services. The action were also monitored with sensors, with ethnographic observation, with questionnaires, and so feedbacks were collected with the goal of redefining and improving the interventions, but also to gather useful dynamic data, and more importantly, to eventually inform policymakers with the knowledge acquired. So such knowledge acquired, though, in terms both of methodologies and real outcomes, that needed to be organized again, this time within a policy framework. In fact, ROC believes that decision makers can benefit from the data, from the results, from the outcomes collected during the research action application, because they are evidences both of the effectiveness, but also of the failures associated with each initiative. And they allow the progressive adjustment and an increasing capacity building of policymakers, and also of practitioners, of cultural operators. So this allows them to face a new societal environmental challenges associated with cultural heritage. Finally, this process was organized in a systematic way for the definition of what we define ROC Integrated Management Plan. And here Rossella will tell you more about it.
Thank you, Martina. In this second part of our presentation, we're going to make an example of application of the ROC methodology and the research action research approach Martina has just explained. So I'm briefly introducing the integrated management plan of the city of Bologna, a toolkit for supporting the development over time of cultural heritage-led regeneration strategies in historic city centers. It is a strategic tool, but also an operational tool with several levels of in-depth analysis aimed at the city's decision makers. the structure of the plan reflects the attitude of experimenting, then learning from the experimentation, and turning the results into new knowledge that will be at the basis of recalibrated or new experimentations in a circular process. As you had the opportunity to see this morning and in the past days of the conference, experimentations in rock cities are a wide range of site-specific actions. In Bologna, pilot actions have been co-designed and co-created in testbed sites located in the old university area. Their feedbacks have been recorded, their impacts verified, providing data and information to reset them for the future, again with the support of the research. The idea of this plan is to organize this large amount of contents in shared knowledge and functional framework. The integrated management plan is still a pilot plan under development by Bologna University and Bologna Municipality, with the perspective to be applied also to the other replicator cities. In this slide, you can see a recap of the structure of the integrated management plan, organized in principles, priorities, tactics, and actions. Let's take a closer look at these elements. The basic part of the plan concerns principles that reflect the three so-called rock pillars emerged as the guiding elements of the regeneration process of the cultural heritage areas involved in the rock project. We have given a specific definition to each principle in relation to rock experience in Bologna. Accessibility is autonomy, the autonomy to choose and fully live the opportunities offered by the city. Collaboration is alliance between all the actors of the processes. Sustainability is transition in politics and behaviors towards green economy, green energy, social inclusions. Principles are shared by all the cities because they represent the baseline of all the rock cultural heritage-led regeneration strategies. The following component of the plan is devoted to the priorities, which are on a strategic level. They are strongly contextual, so different from a city to another. Hence, they emerge from the particularities of the material and the immaterial context and from the instances popped up during the participatory phases. For instance, the local laboratories in Bologna called ULab, in which emerged needs and design inputs. Then we have the tactics level. The tactics describe the processes, extracting them from the key actions of reactivation and regeneration, especially those with a high transferability degree. Here, the attempt is to codify the different steps taken during the actions, design, and implementation, to register barriers and enabling factors, and to translate them into a very practical set of recommendations. So this part concerns the operative level of the integrated management plan that stands between actions, the actions themselves, and the strategic priorities we have seen before. Also, this level is, of course, contextual, and each city will have its own tactics depending on their specific experiences and lessons learned. Finally, we have the different actions carried out in Bologna, such as events, spatial transformations, participative initiatives, and so on. This is a scheme to visualize the relations between the plan components. It can be read from the right to the left, or to the left, from the left to the right, as the relation between the elements is bionivocal. For example, if your priority is to improve circular adaptive reuse, you can apply the light and reversible installation for the transformation of public space tactic, or the multi-level information for open cultural heritage tactic. and learn from the related actions. Or vice versa, starting from a tactic, you may see what could be the priority you could contribute to achieve and what could be the other related tactics or actions. The major aim of ROC Integrated Management Plan is to facilitate the transition from the experimental activities carried out during the project to a long-term structured action program. Now, let's see who is this plan for. It represents an opportunity for public administration to acquire new skills, to gradually and collaboratively transform the setup of public spaces, and better prefiguring the long-term effects. But also the university can benefit from this plan that allows to establish new partnerships, enlarge transdisciplinary research, better anchor research to real life, and also to empower the so-called third mission, the set of activities by which the university interact directly with society and their territory of reference. The current phase of development of the plan includes its integration with the existing plans and programs involving Bologna, and a dedicated section in the Bologna ROC project website that will be regularly updated with the new actions, data, and results. Well, our presentation is finished. I thank you for the attention, and I give the floor to Martina again to lead the conclusion of this session and for the final greetings.
Thank you very much, Rossella, and you all who listened to our presentation. We hope to spark your interest so that you'll be curious to get in contact with us and with the ROC project to deepen some issues of your interest. So once again, we hope to receive questions via the exhibition booth dedicated to the integrated management plan, but also to the ROC circular model. Now we're going to have a 15 minutes necessary break when you can either explore our platform or the exhibition space, searching for speakers to ask questions to, and also look for interesting future sessions to attend. After that, we will have the pleasure to host the keynote interview with our guest, Lia Ghilardi, that we kindly invite you to join. So me and Rossella hope to see you tomorrow in the next session we're going to moderate. And for now, we wish you a nice and interesting conference. Thank you very much. Goodbye.